Recently.
Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I'll be showing you how I make beats for Dc2trill. Now I know Dc2trill has several types of sounds, but today we'll be focusing specifically on the darker sound, the more Detroit adjacent sound. So the way I go about it is I make a sample, and then I export the sample, and then add the drums in another session. I'll show you all the sample which we'll be working on. For this sample, I called it We Bout It. It's in D sharp minor, 151 beats per minute. In this specific example, we're going for a dark, sort of like soulful sound. It's almost like sinister, but it's got some soul to it, you know, it's solid, you know? So anyway, well, important to mention that the main sounds I'm using here is like Triton, maybe some bass, but the main sounds, they come from the Triton VST. And so to begin, we started off with some keys. They sound like this. And before I go on, I hope you notice that the keys, they got some effects to it. It doesn't sound stock at all. You can hear some distortion, you can hear some coloration to it. Like, this is not the stock preset. Again, like I said last time during the last breakdown, I don't have the actual plugin with the exact preset because you know, CPU issues. But I'm gonna show you how the MIDI sound in FL keys. So here's the MIDI, and it sounds like this. For the effects, what I'm doing to this is I have an EQ, it's cutting out the lows, and a basic compressor, a basic leveling compressor to, you know, catch those speeds, make it a little bit smooth. As I said before, the effects, I had put them on before, so I rendered out the sound with the effects. So I have a lighter session that's not heavy on the computer. The next sound we have are these dark keys. Y'all hear that coloration, that distortion, that light saturation? Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. This is the MIDI right here, I'm gonna play it. You can see that we're covering like 3 octave ranges. We got keys in the F2 range, F3, and then it skips all the way to F6. For the processing for the keys, we have once again another EQ and another compressor. That's it. Then we have a top line that's riding above the melody. So we already have this like the sort of like the, because we already have the body, so we're trying to give someone something to hold on to. Like when they hear the beat, they hear, oh, that's the piano going this and this. Anyway, the top line goes like this. So I know y'all can hear that pitch bend. I guess when I was processing the sound, that flatter effect that makes the pitch kind of bend. I know you heard it. But anyway, let's get into the MIDI for the top line. And again, you can see that we're varying the velocity, and you can hear the difference. Like some sounds they sound low, some sounds they sound like you're hitting the piano key very hard. So it makes a big difference. For processing, I have a compressor. Started off for some reason. I don't know why I started with a compressor, but if it works, it works anyway. And then an EQ, cutting out the lows, and then mid-side matrix gigahertz. So what this is doing is basically boosting the side information. The mids are already present, but I wanted to have the sides present so that they can be heard in the mix. Sometimes you have a sound and its information gets lost because it's a little bit too centered, it's a bit too much in the middle. So what the mid-side matrix does is kind of like improves or maybe boosts the side information, so it makes the sound wider basically. I also have another set of keys, sound like this. And you can hear, like, if you really know your sounds, you can hear like that's a sound from Trident. You're not going to get that sound from any other sort of plugin. It's unique, that sound. What this is doing is we have call and response within the same instrument. You can see the longer notes, they call out for the shorter notes. Sound like this. Imagine how a choir would sing. Like, we have soprano, we have alto, we have tenor, we have the bass. Like, the different sounds work together to make one complete sounds. The processing for that, simple, an EQ, and another mid-side matrix, boosting the side. The other sound we have are some strings. Now this, as I said last time, strings are definitely top 5 instrument. What we're doing here is emphasizing that sinister dark feeling. And if there's an instrument that can really produce dark sounds, it's a string. Like, you can especially hear it when it hits that high note. High notes especially, they give you that sinister feel to the max. The MIDI for those looks something like this. Processing for the strings, an ozone imager. I think I had already filtered it, so there's no need for another EQ. Again, this is just boosting the side information. For the other sound, we have a bass. Now, I know like we'll be using 808s in the drums, but having a bass, it kind of like gives you sample authenticity to it. You know, there's a difference between having a sound that has a bass and it's filtered and a sound that has no bass at all. Really big difference. So that's another tip for making your sample. Some frequencies which are occupied by the bass, which would otherwise not be there if you simply just did not use the bass. Anyway, bass sounds like this. Once again, following the root notes. Yeah, this is the MIDI for the bass. Process the bass. You have turned it down to more 100%. Simple compressor. For the stock sound, it definitely doesn't sound like that. Ran it through guitar, probably some bass preset. I usually maybe do some tweaking to the individual components. The final sound is the guitar. Just something to add some color to the sample overall. You know, some top line information. Sounds like this. the MIDI for the guitar looks like this. For this, I don't have a specific thought process when I'm making this. I just click in something that looks nice. Yeah. Processing for the guitar, we have an echo chorus, making it real wide. Then we have an EQ, cut the lows, maybe some of the highs, so it sits nicely in with the other instruments. And then a compressor. And then the other work, you just basically have to arrange it and then export it. And now we're in the drum session. So for this kind of beats, what you want is like a fast-paced drum pattern that's kind of like, it's kind of like tight, but it's got some swing to it. So what I've done here first is I've taken the sample and dropped it in Serato sample. So we can mess around with the BPM and maybe the key. The sample was in D sharp minor and we were at 151 BPM, so we speeded it up a bit. So we're at 160 BPM and we've gone up 3 semitones, so we're up at A flat minor. And we have some chops, and so you would have chopped it into something like this. First chops, we have another set of chops. So you can hear all those different sort of like stutters. They're intentional. When they're playing alone, they sound kind of like awkward, but once you hear the drums, they'll fit right in. Anyway, let's just get into drums direct. So to start it off, a rim shot. We have a clap. You gotta have like a main element that's kind of like the timekeeper for the beat, and usually that is the snare or maybe the clap. And it doesn't matter what sound you use. Like you gotta give the artist something to keep time, so it's always gonna be constant. Like in these, because we're a double time, we have the clap playing at the 3 of each bar sound. So as long as you have a main instrument that's keeping time, you're all set up. So there's another counter snare, it's emphasizing the bounce of the main snare. We have another percussive sound. Kind of like a bongo. Another percussion sound. Okay, and then we get to the hats. Last time I said I never go too crazy with the beats, with the hi-hats, because, I've already the sample is already kind of like doing a lot. You gotta simplify your drums, and one way to simplify that is to just put simple hi-hats. Also, I might have just been lazy, so I didn't want to do something that's too complicated. It might be simple, but I'm still varying the velocities just to give it some flair. Yeah, simple, but you can already hear the groove. Now for the big boys, the 808s. For these, we're using a spins. I like to boost by 2%. And obviously I have a soft clip on the master to get that up. Results may vary, you may have a different 808, so you have to tweak the boost knob to your preference or to whatever beat you have. 2% can be excess for certain beat, and in some beats 2% is too little. It also depends on the type of genre you're making. Anyway, the 808 pattern sounds like this. And you know, it's hitting on this kind of bounce is like, it's like you're hitting on each bar consecutively for 3 hits. So it's kind of like emphasizing that bounce of that boom, boom, boom. And then you like, kind of like go for a pause. It's like you're giving the artist room to spit his bars, maybe say something crazy. You know, the 808 is kind of like giving you it's like the precursor to the tension. So it's like introducing the crazy bars like dun, 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 and then you say some shit crazy. And then the 808 continues in the other bar. Apart from the 808, we have, you know, a basic crash and the open hat. I like my open hat to follow my 808s. Maybe not exactly each hit, but a majority of them will hit at the same time that the 808 is hitting. And so we have some variations of the same 808 pattern just to keep the beat a bit more interesting. One thing I've come to notice, like when you vary the 808s, like someone who's attentive, you'll notice it. Most of the time, people won't notice. Now, when you don't vary it, people will notice. So you gotta have a philosophy, like, do you want to vary your 808s or not? Something I'm not decided on yet. And yeah, I think that's all for the drums, honest. I'm gonna play all of them together all at once so y'all can hear. So the drums all together sound something like this. Yeah, really crispy. For the mixing, you just have to use your ears. You know, you gotta know which sound is like you want it to be the loudest. In this case, you know, the 808 has gotta be the loudest, and followed by elements such as the clap or the snare, and then the hi-hats, and then the percussion sounds follow in decreasing order of importance. So I think that's it actually. So before I play the whole beat, just want to say, like the video, make sure you subscribe, maybe leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next video. Honestly, I'm not feeling too well. I don't know if you can feel it in my voice, but yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Till then, peace.
Is that late?